This is JCU Conversations, a podcast show from James Cook University, Singapore. Tune in as we ask experts in the industry more about their lives and their approach to success. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's listen to today's episode.
Hi, I'm Nurhafihz Noor, lecturer in marketing at the Singapore campus at James Cook University. Our guest today is Fazal Bahardeen, founder and CEO of CrescentRating, a global authority on halal-friendly travel. Fazal is also CEO of HalalTrip, a platform and app that seeks to inspire and enable Muslim travel planning and on-trip support. Fazal has been in the halal travel space for almost 17 years, pioneering an industry that has not only reshaped how destinations think about Muslim travelers, but also opened new conversations around inclusivity, cultural understanding, and the future of global tourism. Today, he'll be sharing with us his journey, the evolution of halal tourism, and what lies ahead in this growing sector. So welcome, Fazal, to today's program. To start off, maybe you can tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do.
Thank you, Hafiz. Thanks for having me on this podcast. Great to be here at JCU. As you mentioned, we basically have two brands. One is CrescentRating, which we started in 2008, basically to sort of define what the Muslim travel market is and also help the industry understand their needs and cater to their needs. And somewhere down the line, we also we actually acquired HalalTrip sometime in 2013, I think, and then launched it as a consumer platform for Muslim travelers. So these are the two platforms that I lead, and we are really focused on one side, helping the industry understand the needs of the Muslim travelers and build capability so that they can cater to this segment. And on the other side, help Muslim travelers to sort of make educated choices when they travel. So we are a Singapore company. Both, HalalTrip is a subsidiary of CrescentRating, and we have been here for last almost 17 years now, and we have staff around the region.
Nice. So it's been quite a journey, 17 years.
True.
And you mentioned that you cater to Muslim travelers and halal travel. So what exactly is halal travel?
I think at the very simplest kind of definition is, catering to the faith-based needs of Muslim travelers, when they travel. Muslim travelers are not very different from any other travelers. They travel for the same reasons as other travelers, to enjoy the sights, sounds, culture, the food. But they, as every segment of travelers, all of them have some unique needs. If you have Chinese tourists, you have specific needs, that you have to cater to them. If you have Japanese tourists, you have different set of, requirements. And same as Muslim travelers also, they have specific requirements that they need to make sure that they are, catered for. And the only difference is when it comes to Muslim travelers, some of their needs are connected to their faith. So that's the difference. It's marketing 101. If you want the travelers to come, you need to understand what their behavior, what their requirements, and serve them. So this sector has been called, halal travel, Muslim travel, Islamic travel, different names around the last many years. We also use the terms interchangeably, sometimes forced by the SEO nature of Google, but of course, these different names like halal travel, Muslim travel, probably they have some slight nuances in how in the definition. But at a very high level, it's about catering to the faith-based needs of Muslim travelers.
And these faith-based needs, can you tell us what are these needs?
Yeah. So when we started, in 2008, we wanted to try and make it easier for the industry to understand. Otherwise, industry was thinking that this is so complicated. We don't understand, how to cater to these markets. So we came up with this model, which was called the Muslim Travelers Faith-Based Needs Model, where we identified at that time three layers of requirements. Three layers. Okay. One we call need to have. Which was, you really need to have these kind of services, which was halal food, prayer facilities, and halal food and prayer facilities. And the second, what we said was, good to have and nice to have. So we had a model which we, in 2019, we did another extensive survey to sort of recalibrate whether this model is still true, and then it was actually, and then we added a few tweaks to it, and that's the model that we have. So about 9 requirements that we have sort of matched them around these 3 layers.
It's fascinating that you said that the model has changed throughout the years. So you've seen that there has been a change or an evolution in halal travel?
Not really. It's because these are basically the core faith-based needs haven't changed for 1,400 years, so that won't change. But around that, like what has changed is that in the earlier model that we had, the water-friendly washrooms was in the good to have. But after research and after the survey that we did, we realized that is really a need to have requirement for Muslim travelers. So we moved that to the need to have. And then things like, wanting to indulge in local community activities, indulge in, social activism and all that. These are, of course, some of the newer things that we integrated into the model. But when it comes to prayers, when it comes to food, when it comes to other stuff, Ramadan, which are part of the model, doesn't change actually.
So some still remain, like the importance of halal food, whereas you mentioned in terms of washrooms or community activities, there's been an interest recently. Okay. In terms of biggest misconceptions, what do you think are some that are out there when it comes to halal travel?
I think the biggest misconceptions, because of how we have named the sector, in some places they even call it, at one time in Indonesia, they call it Sharia, Wisata Sharia, which is, Sharia. So I think this has led to the misconception that this is some kind of a religious travel. And because of that, a lot of stakeholders, industry stakeholders think, we are not enabling religious travel, So I think that's the biggest misconception. That's what we have been trying to break down, those myths. This is really not religious travel. It's like any other travel, when I said in the earlier, to your first question, this is just about any, it's like any other traveler. They're all going for the same things. Of course, Muslims probably won't do certain things like other travelers. They won't go to a casino or a brewery to find out what they're doing. But it's just that their needs when they travel, they need to have halal food, they need to find places to pray, they would like to interact with the local Muslim communities. So I think that's the biggest misconception, that it is it's some kind of religious. Nobody is coming on a trip to Singapore saying, oh, let me go to Singapore and pray there. That's not the intent.
Okay.
So I think that's one. And the second biggest, it's not a misconception. What's sometimes sort of blocking the visibility of this sector for some of the industry stakeholders, not in this part of the world, in other parts of the world, is a negative narrative about Islam, Muslim, and halal. Most of the time in some of the media today. Yeah.
How do you see that affecting halal travel?
I think it has a major impact because some of the businesses, because of the negative narrative, which is always false actually, some of the industry players are a bit worried about looking at this market. Will there be a backlash? And actually the backlash is coming from a very small group of people, but the noise levels are much higher than the majority of the people. So that's, I think, one of the biggest impediments of more and more destinations and travel stakeholders really understanding this market. And unless the reality is, if they don't, they are going to be in trouble, because Muslim populations are increasing massively.
Yes.
Muslims are one of the biggest travelers now, and they really have to have a look at it.
In terms of these opportunities, one is the increasing number of Muslim travelers. What other opportunities do you see when it comes to the growth of the halal travel sector?
I think there's a huge growth factor. I mean, one is the whole population itself. Muslim population is going to go from like 2.2 billion in 2025 to 2.57 billion in 2035. In 10 years, there'll be almost a growth of about 400,000 population increase. That's one. And actually that increase world population will increase by, I think, about 1 billion people maybe within the next 10 years. Almost 40-50% of that increase will come from the Muslim world, actually. So it's a huge impact to any business, not just travel business. The second important factor, when you look at the demographics, is the age demographic. Muslim population, 70% of the Muslim population is under 40 years. And the younger populations of Muslims are really growing, while the rest of the world's population, the younger population, is decreasing. That's the reality. I mean, we see in all over the world now. So there is going to be a huge opportunity for destinations to target this market, because they are going to be a very important younger market to target. Yeah.
In your opinion, which destinations are doing well in targeting these younger markets?
I think, in Europe, you're talking about Europe, right?
Younger markets.
In which part of the world?
Anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think, not necessarily looking at the younger markets, but in general, the Muslim market, especially in this part of the world, you have, places like Hong Kong, which is really massively, aggressively, building capacity to target this market. You have Taiwan. They're putting a lot of efforts into, they even have a brand called Salam Taiwan, which is their brand to focus on the Muslim market. You have in this part of the world also, Australia, of course. And so I think in this region, there is a huge awareness that a Muslim market is very important. And they are doing something. I mean, even European markets like German tourism, we just did a project for them. This is the first time that German tourism board launched a Muslim visitor guide for Muslims, which we produced for them. So we have New York. We recently, a couple of years ago, we developed the Muslim visitor guide for New York City. So there is a growing awareness that undoubtedly, especially after the pandemic, I think there's a realization by many destinations that you need to diversify your arrivals. You cannot depend on one or two segments of the tourist market. And when they look around, and Muslim travel market is one of the markets that they can really try and capture to diversify their arrivals.
And in Asia, just focusing a little bit on this region, which destinations are doing well again?
So of course, Malaysia is doing well. I mean, because of because of its Malaysia, and they have been targeting this market for a long time, and the infrastructure is very, very much there, built into the whole tourism infrastructure. You see that Indonesia is doing, also trying to capture this market. So these are, obvious ones. These are Muslim majority countries. But what's interesting to look at is what Taiwan, what Hong Kong, and to a certain extent, sometimes China as well now, and Japan and Korea were very active some time ago, a little bit less active now. And Australia, New Zealand, all these markets are really, because they see Indonesia and Malaysia as key markets.
Okay. Turning our attention a little bit to the younger travelers, because JCU here, we have quite a young stakeholder group. What are some trends that you see coming from our younger travelers?
I think there's a growing trend now, especially when it comes to younger travelers. Few things. One is that they are not afraid to sort of, explore places that others have not gone, their parents have not gone to. They're a lot more adventurous. Which means they are also flex. They are. If you ask Gen Zs, they will already, before they go, they already have, done their research on where to go, what to do, and where to eat. So and I keep telling this to destinations, if you have, I don't know, it doesn't matter how many halal restaurants they have. If it is not discoverable before the Gen Zs go, it doesn't exist. They're not going to go to the destinations and walk down the street and try to find places to eat.
So that discoverability is important to Gen Z?
Pre-trip discoverability is so important, I think. And also, I think there's a growing trend that they are a lot more aware of what we are doing, the damage that we are doing to the environment. I think that's becoming a huge concern for them. So they are beginning to understand that a lot more than the older. I've been sometimes asked, why do you say that the younger people are more concerned about the environment, the community? It's just that they are, because they're so active on social media, they get a lot more information than the older people who are less active. And so they're getting a lot more interested in, what we call intentional spending. They want to spend so that, it's not still there in a big level, but I think it's a growing trend. They are concerned about the money going back to the local communities, making sure that they don't of course these are new terms that we are using, like regenerative tourism. All these are they are getting interested in those kind of subjects.
Yes. So because they are interested in these issues like sustainability, how does that affect halal travel and how?
Yeah, so I think this was, we have been producing reports for our research for a very long time, and we have already seen this trend, activism and female travelers and all that, which is why, about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, we developed this framework called Rida framework, where we wanted to really capture the key trends, what's going on, in a way, and put a framework around that so that the destinations will understand better and able to sort of implement those capacities. So RIDA actually stands for Responsible, Immersive, Digital, and Assuredness. So these four, and we have been pushing that a lot. And recently, just a couple of months ago, we also introduced RIDA Impact Score, which is to make it easier for destinations to use our framework, but also implement and understand how it impacts their services.
And this RIDA has that sustainability.
Absolutely. So the responsible dimension has sustainability, ethics, and of course there are some overlaps as well, between immersive to immersive. Immersive tourism is something that you need to immerse in the local cultures, make sure that the local communities benefit from your spendings and all that. Yeah,
I think that's heartening to hear that halal travel also has that sustainability component, and then that it contributes to that conversation in that area.
Yeah, actually, just on that. So sustainability already we had, our Global Muslim Travel Index, where we rank 150 plus countries using an ACES model, the model, that framework that we have been using for many years. So we introduced the sustainability as a metrics already 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So it was quite ahead in terms of the metrics then. So looking forward, if let's say we were to think about halal tourism in 2040, in your opinion, how would that look like? What would change?
If you had asked me before ChatGPT in 2023, I would have given the answer that I'm going to give anyway. But nowadays with AI, you never know what's going to happen in 5 years. But anyway, I was listening to a podcast just now in the doomsday scenarios. Anyway, no, I think it will be mainstream. I think we have already been talking about, it was never a niche. To be fair, a Muslim market was never a niche, but we had to position it as a niche many years ago. But I think we have arrived at a point that, the industry is understanding that it is a mainstream market. I think, 2040, it will be really, I would say that it is, we probably might not even need training the industry, because they would have fully embraced the concept. I mean, ideally, what we want to achieve is that there is, through this, there is more understanding among cultures, building bridges. It's happening now, and we see that destinations, when they embrace this, there is more, more understanding by the local communities who Muslims are. I mean, the biggest issues that we have today is, otherization. We don't know each other, and I think we hope, by 2040, if AI doesn't eliminate humanity, we'll be all peaceful and knowing each other better.
Okay. I think it's interesting that you said that you hope in 2040, or you envision that in 2040, probably we may not need any more of the level of awareness that we need now, perhaps already mainstream. Then in 2040, what do you think will be the role of organizations such as yourself?
No, I think, our role when we started 2017 was just about rating. Idea was rating hotels, and, we are very, as an organization, we want to, we continue. I mean, as an organization, every organization has to continually reinvent itself, The requirement of 2040 will be way different from the requirement of the industry now. And as we have built such a lot of, data, knowledge and experience, we'll continue to, our intention is to build CrescentRating, an institution which will last hundreds of years. I mean, that's pretty much what we want to do, and will evolve to cater to the needs of
Any
2040.
business, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're playing a bit of jumping here. So we look forward, but if we look backwards, if you could go back in time and advise your younger 21-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
I think it's always easy to tell what you will tell at 21 when you're 60. But I think, one of the lessons for many youngsters, I think, is don't be afraid of, failure. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because you realize once you grow up, you realize they were really not mistakes or failures. They were learning, instances where you learn, So I think, so I think, of course, it's easy for me to say that now, but, I think if I have to say something now to a 20-year-old is, take risks, especially in this age, we are in AI. Unless you take risk, unless you try to build something which is not there yet, you want to take that leap, you have to embrace failure. You have to failure as something it's about learning, So don't be afraid of making mistakes, make failing. That should not be your concern.
Thank you very much for that wise advice on not being afraid to fail and having that courage to try new things. So Fazal, it has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you very much for your time with us today. If our listeners and viewers want to learn more about you and want to keep in touch with you, how can they do so?
I'm only active nowadays. I used to have Facebook and Instagram. I deleted all of them now. I'm only active on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Fazal Bahardeen, and you can connect with me and happy to
connect with them. Okay, thank you very much, Fazal, for today.
Thank you very much.